over 50 years of experience when it comes to field service, right? That was, mind blowing. And you are the head of field evangelism at Zuper at currently. And so I think you would be the best person to probably highlight with the years of experience you've had. What are some of those things that make Zuper very unique when it comes to field service management?
Well, I think there's a few things that I always like to talk about. One of them is that Zuper is exclusively focused on field service management activities, including the types of activities that Rob talked about in his challenges. So we're not a solution that tries to be all things to all people. We are focused on managing service activities in the field. Work that is performed by people that actually work out in the field. So it's a very, very specific focus, and that allows us to pay attention to the requirements and the needs of that community, the community of people that do work in the field. So that's one thing. We're very uniquely focused. A couple of other things. One is that Zuper is very easily configurable and customizable to fit the business's needs. So the business doesn't have to adapt to how the software works. The software can adapt to how the business needs to work. And we can do that very quickly. In fact, a lot of the configurations, most of the configurations can be done by the customers themselves. So it's a no-code environment where customers are not faced with having to pay exorbitant hourly fees to get a change done to the software, because the vast majority of the changes that they need can be done by themselves without coding in the software. So that's another thing. And then the third thing that I would mention is that you've alluded to the fact that I've spent a few years in the business, Grace. Much of that time was with software companies that have CRM and field service applications. One of the things that has impressed me about Zuper in the 2 years that I've been there is the speed with which the engineering department can add additional functionality and come up with features and functions that are unique to specific customer needs. In my experience in the past, it's often a wait time for if a customer needs a specific customization, for example, it's often frequent for them to have to wait months to get that customization done. Zuper is able to do that, generally speaking, in a matter of weeks. So I'm very, very impressed with the speed and the agility of the engineering organization in responding to customers' unique requests about features and functions. So those are some of the things that I think make Zuper quite different.
Thank you for that. And
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm hearing a lot of things, and I'm also getting to learn more about Zuper as a company, even as a product. At the heart of what Michael, you've said, I hear a lot about technology and how it's really come to play, and it's at the heart of even Zuper as a field management system. And so I want now to transition this conversation, because we're talking about growth of solar industry in Africa and digital transformation. And I want to transition this conversation over to Pavan. And at Redian, our core mission is to digitize Africa. And you are based in India, and you've had over 16 years of experience when it comes to technology. And my question for you is, what inspired you to invest in Africa, particularly, especially during this time where we're seeing a lot of growth in different industries, and one of them being the solar industry?
Unfortunately, like till now, there was not that bigger focus on green energy side, but in last couple of years, or in last 5-7 years, the way this energy sector has taken the path, especially in the solar energy, is unparalleled. Has been a lot of setup happening all across Africa, be it east, west, and southern part. Everywhere you will feel that there has been discussions to set up the solar or wind um, uh, plants. But the challenge is not just there, like setting up the plants. Challenge lies in functioning those plants, and with the minimalistic cost, and what could be where could be the the operational efficiency. So when we discuss about operational efficiency, so having the right systems, digital tools in place, not just to run the internal operations but the external operation, customer services, the people who are on the field managing the entire operation, that is quite significant. Every dots need to be connected, and everybody shall be on the same page. That is only possible once we have the solutions that can integrate each and every point, give the best of the best insights about the plant, gives the best insights about the people who are working there, about the efficiency, customer handling. And that is where the solutions like Zuper comes in place, that gives the better insight about the operational efficiencies, not just the insight but help them to solve that, how to manage it. So it's not just about talks, but if somebody has tried the solution and looked at it, they will realize that um, from where uh, the current stage where these all solar companies are, a lot of manual works that is being done, especially when it comes to the field service part. And like how uh, my previous speaker was talking, Michael was talking about, it's not about and just having the right tool, but how that is going to be utilized by the people, the best of the understanding about the system and the setup, and the easiness of using the solution. So this is all basically journey that everybody is looking for. And I do believe the solutions like this could help in transforming. So when you say the transforming, one is basically adoption, and then is the transformation. So here that we are talking about is the transformation, not about just about the adoption. So transforming the entire process, digitalizing it, and making it sure that all the stakeholders are getting the best of it. And you know uh, not just about like saving the energy, but making sure that whatever that is coming to them is on fingertips. And that is what I mean, these days we talk about. A lot of companies do uh, spend a lot of money on the operational expenses, even more than the capex. In the long term, their opex goes huge, because they never realize that what mistakes that are being done. So I do believe that with the insights here during the session, lot of things will come, and we will understand that how these solutions are not just helping in the field service, but many other internal operations that could solve.
Wow, thank you for that. So it's an all-inclusive system, and it's not just about, field management. It's all about the transformation that we are trying to create here in Africa. And so we talk about growth of the solar industry in Africa, and a particular country comes to mind, at the rate of which they're adopting solar industry, and that is South Africa. And so we have Ikenna in the call, who is the co-founder and the CPO of Utility. And Utility was mentioned as one among the top 10 players when it comes to solar transformation in South Africa. Congratulations for that. Maybe you'll tell us more about that. And so here I see a person who's a big player in the solar industry. I also see a person who's also a big player when it comes to the digital transformation that we're trying to play in Africa. And so my question for you, Ikenna, would be, what would you think has attributed to the adoption of solar majorly in South Africa and this growing interest of alternative energy?
Thank you very much for that, Grace. And I see a colleague here in JP who will also be able to contribute. So JP, please feel free to jump in from a South Africa side. For us, we are seeing record levels of power cuts at the moment, levels that we in South Africa are nowhere near familiar with. And it's been progressively getting worse since 2007 when we first started to experience load shedding. And load shedding is effectively rolling power outages that are scheduled and sometimes unscheduled that cause homes particularly, but also businesses to be quite affected. And in general, it's done to preserve the balance between the demand for energy versus the supply of energy in the country at any given time. Now, if you're a business, typically you have a different affordability profile in alternative options, whether it's a generator or something else to cover you. And even some of these businesses are fitted with multiple sources of from the grid. So if one grid network fails, sometimes you have an option to be fed from another. But when you're particularly on the residential side, you make up sort of of an underserved space. And so what started to happen in South Africa is as load shedding got worse, there was also a dual problem of the energy costs going up, and so we saw double-digit percentage increases annually in the cost of electricity. So at that point, it's only a matter of time on that trend before users, whether it's a business or home, think, okay, how can I sort of take some control on this? Because of course, if you imagine the impact this has on not just a macroeconomic scale and a microeconomic scale in a household, but just developmentally affects everything. So when you can pump water, when you can heat your water, when you can cook, when you can do your homework, it affects everything that you do. And so with the increase in frustration, we started to see an adoption in solar, particularly because the cost of solar continues to drop, particularly on the key items like your lithium-ion batteries or your inverters. So the cost of those started to drop, solar panels as well. I think there's been a drop of about 80% in the cost of these over the last 10 to 15 years. So there's just a very big overlap between the problems that we're seeing in South Africa versus the availability of solar as a viable option, particularly when you have different financing schemes that allow people pay on a monthly basis as opposed to sort of fork out a large amount of money. And so that adoption was basically facilitated by the problem getting worse and the solutions getting more affordable at the same time.
Thank you so much, Ikena. And I just want to give a chance to JP. JP, you're a consultant who works with people in the solar industry. So maybe you can share to us why maybe anything that Ikena might have left out in terms of the interest that's we're seeing when it comes to the solar industry, also what the future of alternative energy looks like.
Thank you, Grace. No, I agree with Akena. I think the load shedding problem that we currently have in South Africa is basically just a bump towards a better future for South Africa in the solar industry. In South Africa, solar has been a part of it, but hasn't been that big as it was, well, worldwide basically. And so we needed that push. And I think the load shedding actually helped with that. It's not a good thing though, but for the solar industry, it is. I mean, there is a couple of things where South Africa, as a overall, we have abundant sunlight. I mean, we have more than 2,500 hours of sunlight per year. So that makes it perfect for the solar industry. And with our government, with the new grants and everything that they actually caught up with, and implementing and helping to produce or promote solar, that helps a lot. I mean, if we move away from fossil fuels with Eskom, which is our energy provider, it saves a lot overall. And with the industry that's growing at this rapid rate currently, in South Africa especially, we've seen in the rural areas, actually jobs being created over there, people employing more workers, and actually helping the rural communities, where it hasn't happened before, and that just brings a better life for everyone over there as well. With the private sector, if I can just go over here, we've got a lot of local and international potential and investments going on in South Africa. Bigger and better companies are investing in South Africa, especially in the solar industry. The technological advances in the solar industry, with the panels, the inverters, the batteries, yes, it makes it a lot more affordable for South Africans to actually implement it. So yes, no, but the rest I can agree with Akena. He basically has everything covered over there.
Okay, thank you so much. And JP, I just want to stick with you for a minute. So I'm hearing a lot of recognizing a need for solar and slowly it getting into the adoption process. And as we were still in this conversation, we heard from Rob some of the challenges that he faced as he was trying to implement this process. And now I just want to hear from you as a person who's doing it actively. What are some of the challenges that you are encountering as you continually adopt the solar industry as a whole, from a consultant point of view?
From the start, I would actually say project management was a big issue. Right next to that is definitely the sourcing of the products. A couple of months ago, it was a big issue where you didn't have this abundance of suppliers to actually supply the markets. So there's not a lot of competition happening, where that has changed dramatically over the last couple of months. And yes, we're getting products for much cheaper, more readily available, more choices, more options for the clients. But to implement it, definitely was the project management side, and then to persuade the customers to actually take that next step. They are very careful, they're very wary, they don't know what is solar actually, which is a big headache, I think industry-wide, because they have one idea of what they want and what they are prepared to pay or implement it as a solution at the end of the day. It doesn't always align. So that's just some of the day-to-day hassles that we have to deal with. But other than that, it is the product quality. I mean, product quality has increased a lot. The players in the market is way better. So no, we can definitely just go forward in the solar industry, especially in South Africa.
Okay. Wow, interesting. And Ikena, I just want to bring it back to you because you're in the same industry. Do you share the same sentiments when it comes to some of the challenges that JP has mentioned and anything that probably hasn't been captured when it comes to some of the challenges that you're facing in this industry?
Yeah, so in the industry, largely, a way to look at this is along the lines of what stakeholder we're considering. So if we consider the end user's perspective, it's very important to understand how to convey education to the end user who is just trying to solve a problem not necessarily trying to become a solar expert. And so there's a lot in there to unpack for end users in terms of creating a situation where, and not only the products are high quality commodities at some point where, if you buy anything that is on the market with a certain level of certification, then you're bound to get a certain amount of performance. But also, if you look at it from a company's perspective, it's how do I create a consistent service across the scale of the problem, so that if I execute an installation in Cape Town, it's the same as what I executed in Durban, for example. And some of that has to do with creating a really fit for purpose system of execution, so that it doesn't matter who your installer is, where they're from, they can basically follow the same process quite easily. So those are just some ways where one connects to another. Of course, they all ultimately go back to the end user, because the reason why the company, for example, that rolls out solar is trying to get consistent is so they can reduce issues. And issues are bad for your brand, bad for your customer, but also cost you a lot, and then goes against your entire goal to reduce your operating costs, which Pavan touched on previously. So all these problems are all sort of, you can separate them, but they all kind of lead to the same thing in the end, which is effectively scaling and cost. Scaling at a cost that is acceptable to yourself as a business and your customers. And so some of the big issues that we faced from a company standpoint was around particularly three things in trying to create an efficient operation, at scale. One was around if you do create, let's say, a digitized service to manage your field services, how do you create this in a way that has the adequate amount of cybersecurity protection for all the data that goes into that platform? That's a very, very big one, and that's a number one concern and priority as we look for solutions to create digital tools to solve these problems at scale. The second problem that we faced quite early on, or identified quite early on, was around how do you integrate all these different stakeholders into one platform that you can easily see what's coming down from your CRM, and that's linked to what's going out on your order, that's linked to how you verify invoices, and that's linked to how you can communicate with your customer, because your customer, more than anything else, particularly when you're at this particular stage of growth, they just want to be in the know. So when you say you're coming to their home at a certain time, they want to know you're coming. It's the reason why a lot of apps these days show where the service personnel or the delivery person is on their journey. It's because customers really want to know, so they can plan their lives and live and in a way that has minimal anxiety and links to it. So how do you create this ecosystem that allows this fuller level of integration that keeps everyone in the know and on the same page? And the third key problem that we faced quite early on as well is, how do you set up tracking for how well you're doing, right? So how can you easily analyze the data to show, okay, I've been on time for X% of installations. I've been, let's say 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes late for another set of installations, or whatever the case may be, but just something that shows you very quickly on a dashboard that people do not have to spend excessive amounts of time trying to discern. And you can certainly potentially never even get there if you didn't have a digitized system. So those three things were very, very important for us as a business going in, and then for customers, it's really the key problem is cost. So if you do all those things and it manages to bring your costs down and you can pass those on to your customer, then you're starting to get to a point that you're solving some of those key problems.
It's Michael. If I could chime in for just a second and
Yes,
point
please.
out a couple of things that am I muted? No. That I think were just mentioned, that where Zuper, the Zuper technology can certainly be of great assistance in helping to manage the costs. First of all, consistency was mentioned, the importance of the installers being consistent so that you're getting a consistent result. One of the things that Zuper offers, of course, is the ability to define specific steps that must be done in an installation process or a service process. So following those steps can help ensure consistency across all of the different technical installers that and service people that might be employed. Integration with other applications was also mentioned. Just as a point of reference, Zuper has integrations with over 60 other business-related applications, including many of the prominent CRM systems and financial systems for invoicing, et cetera. Keeping customers informed has also been mentioned as a very important step. And one of the nice things about Zuper as well is the ability to set up a variety of different automatic notifications to customers based upon a sequence of events or based upon a specific workflow. And those notifications can be triggered automatically, depending upon the workflow that's set up. And then finally, and this is really, really important as well, is the ability to analyze the data and to understand, what are my costs? What are the revenues that I'm generating through service and through installations, et cetera? And what were the training issues that might come up if certain technicians have not been trained adequately, et cetera. So the system captures a wide variety of data that can be easily downloaded into reports and analyzed. And Zuper has even recently introduced a artificial intelligence capability that can respond to human language queries about performance and financial analysis, et cetera. So I just wanted to point out that the technology to handle a lot of the things that have been mentioned is inherent in Zuper as well.
Thank you for that, Michael. I actually wanted to go back to you because at the end of the day, we are looking at how, and some of the questions that some of the people who are attending this webinar asked was, how can we make, because one of the biggest problems to why people are not adapting solar, even with the positive things that it comes with, is because of the cost effectiveness. And so we're trying to have a full circle conversation about along different stakeholders in this conversation, and there's the end user, there's the provider of the service, and there's where Zuper comes in. And I just want to thank you for addressing that, because cost is a major issue here when it comes to adaptability, and the fact is Zuper is able to address that, and not just, and goes beyond addressing just cost effectiveness, but also the integration of different apps. I think is something that's really important even for our audience to hear. And I just thank you for that, Michael, and thank you, Ikenna and JP, for addressing that. And so I can see that our time is really good. Time moves so fast when you have an interesting conversation. But so as we wrap up, we had a lot of questions from the people joining in, and I just want to take it back to Pavan, because one of the questions that was highlighted a few times was, can green energy solve the current situation that we are seeing in South Africa that has been clearly highlighted by JP and Ikenna?
See, there will be a collective effort required. Okay, it's not just about that green energy will solve the entire problem or not, but I do believe that there are multiple things that will be required into it. So problem is not about the green energy or clean energy. Problem lies in basically how that implementation is being done and how it is executed. How we can reduce the cost of implementation, how we can reduce the cost of channelization, how we can reduce the cost of distribution, and how we can increase the efficiency. So and that is very much important, right, for any system. And so is basically for the case of solar energy or wind energy or any energy that you talk about. So the cost of production is one thing, and then cost of distribution, and it all depends that how entire system is functioning. So one is the hardware cost that comes, the setup cost that comes there, and as I was talking about, other one is the operational efficiency and the operational expenses. To increase the operational efficiency, we must require the system that can help in tracking the different data sets, different endpoints, and we can take the decision accordingly. It shall not be like we are producing like 2000 megawatt, and when we are doing the distribution, our systems are having problems, and we manage to distribute only like 1500 megawatts. 500 megawatt is that, that we are losing during the distribution because of the transmission lines, and we are not able to track it. Whenever basically, we are setting up the transmission line and distribution system and the people, we don't really know that who is doing what, who is where, like what Michael was talking about. We do many times companies don't really know about like their own people, what they are doing, where they are, what shall be done, what is the status of it, and we end up losing, a lot of time on it. And that is very crucial, how efficiently we will tackle the issues, the customer issues, operational issues. So if we have a system that can, immediately take up the tickets, assign it to the right person. If it is not solved, escalations can be done within time. Escalations are then resolved by the person. We do have a clear visibility about the system, like these much of the issues that we received, and these much of the issues are coming because of this particular problem. So somebody in the system can look at that problem and solve it, and it will reduce that, that problem. That problem will not occur again. So, and that will increase the operational efficiency, it will reduce the cost, it will increase the, the distribution of the power, and reduce the waste of power. So similarly, in the setup and distribution, so like you have 100 people working on the field, but you don't really know that who is doing what. I mean, how many tasks has been assigned. So one person is on a one route. So and then if you don't have any system, you end up assigning 5 different people on the same route, and then the one person is going at one place in the left of the city, and after finishing up their job, that same person is going to the right of the city. And when there is already a person in the right part of the city who is finishing up the job, so if we have a system where we can track the movement of the people, we can assign the right uh, right job for them. So if somebody is at one postal code, we can identify that that person is already there. If new request is coming from that area, we could assign a new next request to that person. And if that person has end up with enough number of requests, then we could assign that request to somebody else. So we can also know that that person is having enough number of jobs already, and we shall not overload that person. So it's having like managing so many things, so many dots over there, and making sure that system is working smoothly without much of the errors, without much of the problems. Not just in the managing the internal employees, customer services, tracking, doing the data analytics, many more things. So very recently we were in discussion with one company that distribute the energy. The biggest problem for them was basically to understand, like, if they are supplying to 2000 people, and many times the tempering issues are coming in the meter reading. So they want to understand that if the meters has been installed and there is any problem and somebody tries to temper it, can we read that data and analyze it, that out of these 2000 people, these people are trying to temper it. So this is all possible once we have the streamlined systems, and systems in the place that can give us the better insights, accurate insights, and increase the overall efficiency.
Wow. Wow. We can just end the conversation right there. Wow, that was very, very insightful. Thank you for sharing. And time is really gone. And I just want to say thank you, because I can see the attendance has been consistent from the beginning to the end. And we've been able to interestingly answer all the questions people have highlighted. So before we wrap it up, we are finalizing. I just have one last question to Ikenna, and then we'll take a round of closing remarks from all the panelists. So in this conversation, we having very different stakeholders. We are having people who are looking out for alternative energy. We have people who are ready with it. So people who are in the solar industry and they're experiencing different challenges. And we have those people who are offering the service itself, like yourself and JP. And then we have people who have seen some of the challenges in the solar industry, like what Zuper has done, and are trying to address some of these challenges. Now, the question I have for you is, having heard what Michael has highlighted about Zuper and also some of the challenges that Ban has brought about when it comes to, adopting some of these things, how do you see utility and other players like yourself benefiting from Zuper? Because I do believe that if companies like utility are able to adapt fully the flexibility of Zuper, then this will also be a plus for the end user, who is the person who needs solar energy in their home.
Yeah, look, thank you for the question. I think what really ends up being the most important thing for a business like us is to ensure that we have the best solutions for our biggest problems. And it's better if we can do that without having to create our own technologies in areas that are outside of our remit. So if you're in a situation where your main remit is to provide solar solutions that are affordable to customers, and you're doing that in terms of product testing, product offering, training teams, and all of that, and then you have to divide your resources to go and create a solution that can effectively make your teams collaborate better. Now you're in the collaboration business, right? Which is very distracting and makes it harder for you to be successful at either of them. So for a business like ours, it's very important to have folks that are solely focused on these big problems. And that's one of the reasons why the solution works for us. We know that it's a field services specific solution. We looked a lot around the business as well for this. And a lot of times when you're looking for something like this, sometimes it's even difficult to convey to people what you're looking for, because not everyone is familiar with this specific way of thinking about the solution or even thinking about the problem. So for us, it's really it's a level of convenience that becomes almost a no-brainer effectively, because all the problems we identified in the beginning before we started to think about a solution, and it's quite clear that there are a lot of those boxes that are ticked with the Zuper solution. So for us and potentially for others like us in the industry, it does make a lot of sense in terms of driving those important efficiencies.
Thank you for that. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. I feel like there's so much to tap into this conversation, and definitely a need for part two. And so I'm just going to go around for all my panelists to just say a parting shot for today's discussion, and yes, so that we can wrap it out. And we can start with Michael, then we'll go to Rob and JP, Robert, and Ikenna.
I completely agree that it's important for businesses in the solar industry and other industries as well to be able to focus on their core business. and they should not have to worry about developing and maintaining an application that helps them manage their core business. Let the vendors like Zuper do that, because that's their expertise and that's our core business, so that the companies that are delivering the service can focus on their core business.
Yeah, I just wanted to round out things by saying, there's a lot of opportunity for growth in East Africa for solar. And there's so many opportunities for businesses to start up. There's different business models that they can, deploy. And when you pick the right technology partners, it helps accelerate your growth. It helps accelerate, enhance your customer experience, and really enables you to bring real change. So just wanted to leave it with that. Thanks for having me on.
So my final submission is that companies need to evaluate about their core businesses, like Michael said, and they need to thoughtfully build up their strategies for that operational efficiencies with the digital transformation, putting up the right digital tools so that long-term strategy I'm talking about, so that they can just not save a lot of cost on it, but also become basically the leader in their field. So people like us and Zuper, we can collaborate with them in many possible ways, where we could help them in building up their strategies, right strategy for them that could help in many areas that we are specialized about. Many channels, customer services, the internal operations, digitizing various operations of the company, and let them focus on the core areas of their business, that is generating the power and distributing and going into the customer. So there are many possible synergies and that we find between the energy companies and us, and we look forward to work on that side.
Yes, my final thought should be to just implement the right solution for the right problem with the right company as well, and just stick to it and not compromise in any way with regards to that. Otherwise, you're going to pay the price at the end of the day. So yes.
Yeah, so I have to just echo what the colleagues have said. I think it's one of those where the pain is there, and if you match the pain with the right solution, you will feel it from almost the first day/week that the implementation is in, and your staff is fully trained. You start to see at least your trajectory towards improvement. So for us it's something that we're all too aware of, and yeah, very happy that there are folks that are focused on these problems that not many people see.
All right. Thank you so much. And I feel like there's so much to tap into these conversations, and hopefully we're going to have another session. Just want to say thank you to all the attendees for making time to attend this session, and I hope you've been able to get a small glimpse of what the solar landscape is looking like here in Africa, of course, with a lot of potential, and also how to get into the game and address some of the challenges that are already in the game. Say thank you to our panelists. We have Utility, we have SunSmart, we have Zuper, and we also have Redian for making time and coming together to kind of give perspective in terms of the different stakeholders that is this industry. And thank you, everyone. And in case of any questions, feel free to reach us to us, and we will ensure to answer them. So everybody have a good day, good morning, good evening from wherever you are, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
Grace.
everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.